Hello and welcome to Dinis Guarda YouTube podcast series. We are here once again to continue profiling global thought leaders, personalities, thinkers, creators, entrepreneurs, and technologists changing the world and bringing new narratives, new solutions for our businesses, for our society. In this series, as you know, I've been always trying to bring the people that I respect or people that I find that are doing something quite unique, quite innovative, but as well people that think outside of the box, or at least that try to go a step further, especially in a time where digital obesity or a lot of other keywords related with digital transformation, AI, are all overwhelming all of us and creating the marketplace digital. So I welcome to our series Peter Sayburn, that is a serial entrepreneur, strategist, and designer, as the CEO and co-founder of Studiospace, a global marketplace for senior marketeers and agencies looking to hire agencies. So you have the agencies and you have the brands. He is also the author that co-writes Defying Gravity, Adventures of a Corporate Entrepreneur, published in 2010. Peter is an MBA in entrepreneurship from the University of Florida, and he oversees the platform and the created Studiospace that works as handpicked marketplace that is founder-led and brings together award-winning agencies. The Studiospace clients include major brands such as Aviva, Jaguar, Land Rover, and Gala Games. Founded in 2022, it has now 200 independent agencies spread across 12 countries and 36 cities. Some agencies working with Studiospace include Ranking Creative, one of the top creative agencies founded by the celebrity photographer Ranking. And for instance, Ranking Creative has created eye-catching marketing and brand campaigns for companies including Rolls-Royce, Lego, Samsonite, Ernst & Young, Mercedes, Unilever, just to mention a few, and as well has been working with some of the biggest celebrities in the planet. Pete's previous endeavors include Market Gravity, an innovation business which he founded in 2009, and in 2017, Market Gravity was sold to Deloitte, and he joined Deloitte himself. During his tenure at Deloitte, Pete served as a global customer strategy and applied design lead at Deloitte Digital. He played a crucial role in driving innovation and helping organizations design and prototype new propositions and services. So I'll come to our series, Peter Sayburn, CEO of Studiospace.
Very good to be here.
So Pete, sorry. In terms of your background, I would like to start, of course, with the basis. So you're doing a lot of different things at the moment that coordinates business, technology, creative agencies, and different business. So give us a bit of how do you build your career until now, a bit from the beginning. We can go to childhood, whatever you want, but I always like to start with that.
Sure. So maybe if I don't go quite that far back to begin with, but my previous role before Studiospace, I actually set up an agency called Market Gravity. We were an innovation agency, and we help big companies to maybe launch new ventures, new technologies, new innovation. And we scaled that business and then sold the business to Deloitte Digital. So we became part of one of the biggest professional services organizations in the world. So I have experience in the last decade of both being an agency founder, scaling the business, but then also being part of a large professional services company. And this identified lots of opportunities, obviously, for what our next venture would be, which is Studiospace, which is what we launched 18 months ago, which I'm excited to tell you a little bit more about. But it's always been in the area of innovation, entrepreneurship. I've been fascinated by the startup culture, but also how you can bring this startup culture into big organizations. How do large established businesses remain innovative as they scale? And how do innovators within large businesses have a big impact commercially as well as culturally on the companies that they work within?
Thank you. So before I go to Studioverse, which I have a lot of questions, I want to ask, so you were former global strategy and design lead at Deloitte Digital and CEO of Market Gravity, as you mentioned. So from your experience, so the world of agencies is going through a big transformation, because in the end of the day, and now especially with AI, especially the last 6 months, and we're talking ChatGPT is just 6 months, but it's changing the entire creative process, the entire agency world, and creating new revenues and new business, but at the same time disrupting everything we know about the concept. And before that, there was a massive disruption from Google when Google came, and most of the agency world merge with Google, let's put it that way, and their ecosystem, and then Facebook. So how do you see this stage that you are, especially bear in mind that you come from Deloitte Digital, of course, one of the biggest digital ecosystems in the world in terms of business, and as well the Market Gravity?
Well, I think what we learned in Market Gravity was that it can be incredibly valuable, but also very difficult as a small, relatively independent agency to win business with the biggest brands in the world. And this was essential to our success. And we spent many years trying to build relationships and to strengthen our position with these large brands and large businesses. And so what we realized was that if there was an opportunity and a way that these smaller businesses who are very creative, they have wonderful cultures, and they are specialists in their field, often at the forefront of the methods and the technologies, could find a new way to access corporations, then that would be a value to both. Because within a large company, even if you want to work with these smaller agencies, sometimes it's quite difficult to do that. It's quite difficult to overcome the procurement challenges or the legal hurdles or the financial hurdles. And so we decided that we would identify a new venture that could help overcome, create a platform that would bring independent agencies on one side together with some of the biggest brands and biggest businesses in the world, and give them an opportunity to find one another and to start working together. And this is really our response to those technical changes that you talk about there, Dinis. So, giving the smaller independent agencies a bit of a level playing field and an ability to access new opportunities with some of the best brands in the world. And that's really what we've been focusing on for the last 18 months.
Well, first of all, congratulations. It's a great initiative, and it's really very necessary, especially because agencies are going through massive disruption after disruption. Mm-hmm. So from the building of Studiospace, and for people listening to us, we'll put all the links, but studiospace.com. So how do you define Studiospace for people that never hear about it for first time, which is probably most of my audience, but as well, what are the unique parts that you can offer to an agency or to clients coming to this, and how it works?
Absolutely. So a quick analogy, I guess, would be to think about Studiospace as the kind of like the Airbnb, but for marketing services, right? So instead of the wonderful beachfront apartments and the wonderful villas that you can go and stay in, these independent properties that are run by their owners and made available to guests. What we do is we bring these wonderful independent agencies who are specialists in their field. We create a profile on our platform. We enable them to access the best brands in the world by signing up on the other side of our platform, the big corporations who are looking for new sources of talent, innovation, and creativity. And so you can imagine the two sides of this marketplace. Studiospace is a marketplace for marketing services, digital services, creative services. So the big company can go on, they can look at the profiles, they can search the marketplace by filtering for type of work. Maybe they want to work with a B corporation. Maybe they want to work with a female founder. Maybe they want to work with a particular agency which is based in a region of the world that they've not worked with before. They can find these agencies on Studiospace, and then they can contact them with a brief, and they can share their objective, their marketing challenge, or their business or their creative technology challenge. And Studiospace facilitates this whole process. So we make it very efficient and very fast, and a good value way of finding a new agency to work with, and then engaging with that agency. And we take care of all of the payments, all of the contracts, and all of the paperwork and the admin, which makes it very difficult to connect normally. And we take that away so that the agencies can focus on the creative challenge, on the work with their clients, and we take care of all the administration.
So it's a marketplace for agencies where actually brands can connect with the agencies and find new solutions. So from an innovation, and I want to go a bit further. So let's start first of all. Can you highlight some of the agencies that you and I know that in the website there's a lot of fantastic brands, but especially a case study or two and some of the brands. I know that Ranking, for instance, one of the major photographers, and they say an agency is listed, but just contextualize how it works, and as well some of the case studies that you want to share with us.
So we have a really nice wide range of agencies already signed up to the Studiospace platform. They range from strategy and insight and research at one end through creative, advertising, content, digital marketing, search, PPC, right the way through to experience design, UX, UI, and some more of the sort of technical disciplines as well. A few high-profile agencies who have already signed to the platform: Axello, Coco Gun. We also have Rankin Creative, who we're really excited about. Of course, Rankin is well known as a world-class photographer. Photographs of many celebrities and very high-profile individuals. But what people don't always realize is that Rankin Creative, the studio that he co-founded, is also a very high quality production, creative, video, advertising, content creation agency as well. So it's a nice example where we've been able to source some of the best agency talent in the world. We bring them onto the Studiospace platform, and then we connect those agencies to some of the biggest brands in the world. So the likes of Jaguar Land Rover, Aviva, Walmart, AXA. So these are blue chip established companies. They're often companies who have a lot of change in their industries. They're big companies who need to stay at the forefront, and they're always looking for new sources of innovation, new sources of talent, and new specialist agencies to work with in order to maintain their business advantage. And that's really what they see in the Studiospace solution. It's kind of an on-demand solution. So if you needed very quickly to access the best influencer marketing talent for TikTok, or you wanted very quickly to organize a global research program for high net worth individuals in 5 countries around the world, then Studiospace can do this because we have the breadth and we have the relationships with the established agencies to be able to respond very quickly to your brief. So we like to think of it almost like a on-demand platform for really high quality specialist marketing services.
Excellent. And that's really one of the things that I think is probably the most important right now. So I want to go a couple of technical questions. So bear in mind that you work with very high profile agencies and a lot of diverse talent as well. So the digital world, actually the digital economy or the world economy, is going through a lot of challenges. So at the moment, there's the definition of an agency. For us, you mentioned influencers, you mentioned photographers that are as well influencers in a lot of levels. How do you see these bridges? And the platform, of course, has a list of agencies and so forth that is quite interesting. But how you see these differentiations even between the different parts? Because, for instance, you have customer and business strategy, data insights and research, experience and design, tech and development, advertisement, brand and creative, production service, media and PR, and the employer brand and experience. It's quite diverse lack of expertise and talents, and as well, I would say even verticals that are completely different, because the employer brand and experience is different completely from media, PR, and events. So I'd like to see, how do you see the present system of the agencies and the intelligence that you get? Because of course, I'm sure you get a lot of intelligence on this.
Yeah, a couple of things to say on the categories. So some agencies, as you know, have very broad and very diverse capabilities. And if you take some of the big holding companies, Publicis, WPP, for example, it's taken them many decades to build up a holding company with all of the different specialist services that they can bring together. So what we decided to do with Studiospace is to keep the specialist indie kind of culture and focus, and give the smaller agencies a chance to come together and still win the best briefs. But we organize them into these categories to make it very easy for our corporate clients to find them. So if you take someone, as you say, who's happens to be working maybe in customer experience design, they also have some skills in user experience, some digital skills, maybe they have some insight and some research skills, but we want to make it really easy for a client or a company to find them. And then once they start working together, they can, of course, broaden the services. But we organize them into those categories to help search. Now, technically, this is becoming more interesting as you know, your ability to match a brief to a potential agency has become more sophisticated. We like to think about it in capability terms, in values terms, and also in sort of commercial value and economic terms, where you have a budget, you have a particular budget in mind, you have a particular piece of work that you'd like to complete, and what you're looking for as a customer of Studiospace is the best match. So we're priding ourselves now on building our insight around the agencies on one side and building our insight around the brief on the customer side, and then we bring these two together. And we started the business by using that kind of very good human device called the brain to match the best agencies to the best briefs. But now we're trying to understand what is the algorithm that sits behind that match. And can we actually train our platform to understand the matching characteristics, taking feedback from customers on every single project or campaign they run, taking feedback from agencies on every single pitch and every single project that they work on together. And we're gradually building up our understanding of what makes a perfect match between an agency and a client company. And I think this is one of the most exciting areas of our business, as the intelligence and the ability to make those matches using the platform rather than through just a human decisioning is equipping our customers with unprecedented kind of options of who to work with. The platform is no longer constrained by geography. You could work with anyone in the world. It's no longer constrained by the capabilities that you have within one holding company or one agency. We actually have a very diverse and broad range of categories. And so this sort of marketplace magic, which we can now bring to the services, is enabling big brand owners to select the type of companies that they want to do based on data, not just based on relationships and who they know, but actually now about what is the best fit between their brief and the agency network that we're now building.
That's very impressive, and it's really super important because one of the things we are all conscious is that we have more content than ever, more digital platforms than ever. There's 1.2 billion websites in the world, and there's a lot of clutter, a lot of challenges. But one of the challenges, and this is my next question, is there's an alarming lack of understanding what is digital. Okay, most of the people, everyone has an opinion because everyone uses a phone or a smartphone, even in Africa, or in any emerging market. But the challenge is more, how can you actually understand these different things? So from the work, and I will be a bit broader question, from the work you've been doing with these agencies and with clients, what do you think is the biggest barrier for digital transformation? Because at the moment, one of the things that I'm very conscious, and I've been actually working on this, is the barriers of the digital divide. And the digital divide is not just for people that are less digital savvy or professionals like us, because of course all your agencies should be quite advanced, otherwise they would not be offering this service. But definitely there's a huge amount of digital divide and digital, I would say, I call it digital obesity or digital overdose. But then it creates a problem of cynicism and the problem as well of understanding. This is actually works with brands, works with agencies, and creates a lot of issues on the world economy, precisely on the agency economy. So I would like to touch this because it's a key element for business.
Yeah, I think you touch on a really important factor there. The digital divide is, in my view, down to a number of things. There's a customer understanding, a user understanding. What is it that makes a service more effective through digital device or channel, how do we understand how people choose to use these services? How do we design them with everybody's usability in mind? How do we introduce these new services and test them and make sure that they do perform the function that we want to? And then how do we maintain security, privacy, treatment of individuals' data through the delivery of these services without compromise? So I think this is big questions for the industry to ask. I think what we're seeing from our agency feedback, at least, and our client feedback, is that most companies now understand the basics of user-centered design, right? They understand the principles of how to work in an agile fashion, how to understand customers' needs, design some elements of solution, develop, test, prototype, introduce, deploy, and then maintain. And I think the challenge, though, is that things are moving so fast. Unbelievable pace of change. How does a large regulated organization keep pace with that type of change? So if you work in a big bank or a big insurance company, or these sorts of organizations, they can't move quite as fast as a pure startup can. And I think where we're finding the desire of our customers to work with new agencies and maybe find new ways of working is really driven by that. It's driven by the need to move faster than ever, but still maintain security and integrity and compliance with processes because of the industries they're in. And to do that in a way which is also economically viable. It's still a profitable business that you can run. So you have these kind of competing objectives. So take the marketing director or the CMO, for example. They're always being asked to do more with less. I still want to have the sales performance. I still want the brand awareness. I still need to see the funnel metrics at every stage of the funnel being delivered. I still need to know what my return on marketing investment is, but they're under pressure year on year to achieve that with smaller budgets. And so we're often finding CMOs are coming to us and saying, is there a better way of delivering my marketing ambitions, which doesn't revolve around maybe a 3-year agency of record beauty parade where I review and issue a new contract with a new agency to take care of everything? Is there a more dynamic way where I can allocate pieces of my marketing budget on a much more dynamic fashion, like everything else in my business? And I think that's where we're starting to see return on investment being much more easily measured, because it's on specific campaign metrics, it's on specific areas of the marketing mix. But yeah, this is the background that we find ourselves in, Dinis. It's constant battle between pace, between quality, and between the sort of compliance and risk metrics that all of our customers have, because they're big established companies and they have a lot of privacy and security concerns to deal with alongside the commercial drivers.
This is it opens a lot of doors that I want to ask. So from your experience with these agencies, and I think, like you said, there's cybersecurity, there's compliance, there's even the way you look at the innovation right now, which is kind of, for instance, right now we're discussing if Google is going to be disrupted or not by ChatGPT, or it was already disrupted, but it can actually survive. That's the biggest question. And normally these changes in digital, they always were fast, but now we're going to a new level. So do you think the sense of velocity, because I think the velocity or the sense of velocity is right now probably the biggest challenge we're facing altogether, but how do you see this when it comes from the basics? Because in the end of the day, it's all about basics. And I think one of the things, your experience working in both building the platform and as well with big organizations before, and as well you work with big brands, is that we have a lot of input. And this is actually right now we have major global corporations like so Google, Facebook, and Amazons and Apples that control most of the media worldwide. Then we have 2 or 3 big groups of agencies, and then there's the independents. So how do you see this? Because it's at the moment it's everything is for grabs, but at the same time there's monopolies that are really very big. But do you see this quality of what you're doing with the platform can actually create an independent new voice that actually can create more talent, or you see a lot of obstacles still from these major monopoles? Some of them, of course, are doing fantastic work. I'm not here to trash anyone, but in the sense of there's a difficulty effectively to position brands because of marketing, because of reach, and as well even how you position the platform, the marketing, the PR of your own platform and these agencies together. So there's a lot of a kind of collective work here that is as well about compliance and as well sustainable. I love these platforms, and that's why I want to interview you, because it's a sustainable platform, and as well everyone can win between them. But it's not an easy thing, because unfortunately the world is not about sustainability, or at least balance. Is much more about who goes fast and changes sometimes wins the war. But it's quite complex. I just want to see how you see this balance between all these different factors.
Yeah, to begin with, I see coexistence. I don't see it as being a zero-sum game, as you say, where you need to kind of replace the agency holding company model with 100% on-demand platform-based direct to the specialist. But I do think that there is sufficient change going on in the market that will enable platforms like ours to gain quite a considerable share of wallet and a considerable share of the way that people access and work with agencies. And I think it's down to a couple of things. One is the pace of change, as you suggest. It's impossible for the big holding companies to be good at everything, to be the best at everything, right? If your model is based on acquisition, it takes time for an agency to grow to a point where you may choose to acquire it. You're not always at the bleeding edge of approaches. You know, it's often the indies and the specialists who maybe develop some of these groundbreaking approaches, and then after a considerable period of time, several months or years, the large companies may choose to acquire these. So it doesn't happen overnight. I know there's been a lot of activity in M&A, and that will continue, I'm sure. But I think we continue to see a lot of innovation going on in that indie sector with those specialists. And what we're focused on doing, I suppose, is making sure that the other aspects, the conditions like complexity of how to contract, how to comply with corporate regulations, how to access these briefs and markets, we make that simpler. We make that smoother for everybody involved. We take away the complexity from the procurement process, at least, so that the focus and the effort of the smaller agencies can be on solving these problems, right? Not on completing procurement questionnaires and onboarding and spending 6 months trying to get onboarded to a major brand. Really, you know, it nullifies some of the benefits that you can get. Having said that, the indies and the specialists are often great value. I don't mean they're cheap by any means, but they're great value because they are smaller, they're more nimble, they only do one thing really, really well, and they don't have all of the overhead and the legacy that some of the large companies have in terms of property and pensions and all of the sort of long-term liabilities that you need to pay for, ultimately the client pays for. So I think what we're focused on doing is finding an efficient channel to market to bring some of the best agency talent in front of the biggest brands and give them a chance to work in tandem with in-house teams and with retained agencies, big retained agencies who maybe have that AOR role. But there's always an opportunity to supplement their capability and to maybe provide additional capacity at peak times as well. So this is what our customers are doing at the moment. They're either accessing new talent on an on-demand basis, or they're finding additional capacity at times when they need it, or they're actually substituting out where they see a better value alternative, where their budgets are under pressure, and maybe rather than give a particular campaign to their existing media agency, they find an independent is a competitive option and they choose to do it that way instead. So we're trying to assist the industry in that transition, but not necessarily look at it as being a zero-sum switch from holding company to independent and back again. I think there's plenty of room for both to exist in a very positive way and team up in many cases and work together.
So that's a very collaborative approach that is key, especially when it comes to
I think so.
To announcing this. And do you see from the experience that you have, I don't know if you want to share with us, any fantastic cases where agencies work with each other and actually create more value, or at least one case study you want to share with us? Because I think this is one thing I've been working with agencies for a long time. There's always competition, but as well, there's a lot, like you said, if we get an agency specialize in one thing with another one, you can actually create a lot of value. But it's not easy, because some products, you don't know what it starts one thing or the other, and no project is the same. So there's not like a package you can do. Let's say 5 years ago, you could actually just, or even 10, more focus on just PPC or SEO, more conventional. Now it's very fragmented, very blurred, the lines between digital, even business, the digital transformation business with online marketing, influencer marketing, things are blurred more and more. So any case study on this level, because I'm particularly interested on these things, and I think especially our audience, because I want to learn and teach as well, because or at least share this kind of case studies.
Yeah, we've had a couple of great examples, and I've been delighted to see it actually, where some of the Studiospace agencies collaborate together on delivering client ambitions. So maybe they both have a role agreed. What is critical in the case is that the role has to be complementary, because I understand exactly what you're saying, is that when you have competing agencies, their elbows are out and they're trying to protect their role, it's not good for the customer, it's not good for the client, and it doesn't get to a better outcome. But we have a couple of examples, particularly if you combine things that are complementary sectors. So an insight agency working together with a design agency and a technology partner has been very effective. And we have a couple of examples, both in the software with a big tech company, but also in the automotive sector, where we brought together 2 or 3, in some cases, I think the maximum was probably 4 companies onto a single program across disciplines, all sourced through Studiospace by the client, but actually collaborating on a transformation program or a new product introduction. And that's really satisfying, because it means that the formula is working, but it also creates community within the agencies. And so we have a Slack channel for all agency founders, for example. They collaborate with each other, they share experiences. It's not always about the business development side. Sometimes it's about how you empower your teams, how you motivate your colleagues, how you stay sharp yourself, even in challenges, So the agency founders themselves are often speaking to each other. And a lot of the feedback has been very positive. One of the benefits that founders of Studiospace agencies have told us is that they like to learn from one another, and they like to collaborate without that underlying kind of, fear of competing, which you often do get in a more traditional kind of consultancy or agency background. So yeah, I think this could be the future. I think as long as the roles are clear and as long as the capabilities are complementary rather than competitive, that example works very well.
No, it's a great one, and then there's a key. I think it's a key one, because if we get, I believe that there's space of business for everyone. It depends on how you communicate and depends on how you manage the expectations. And if you follow a process, there's no surprises. Of course, the surprises can come from new things that you create or the creativity. So
that's right.
It brings me to the other. I know that we are conscious of your time, so. The big elephant in the room is precisely everything that is happening with AI, and especially the AI acceleration. And as well, there's at the moment a dehumanization of AI. At the end of the day, we created, especially ChatGPT, at least in my view, it came with fantastic possibilities, but it came as well without any consideration for humans, which is, okay, let's put it there and drop it, and let's drop the bomb. I think there's a lot of people right now taking this very serious, and governments more than anything else. But of course, for the agencies, this is even more crazy, because in the end of the day, we're talking right now, ChatGPT can do a website, can do a marketing campaign, can integrate a lot of APIs and so forth. So in one end, is killing most of the skill sets that were built. In other end, it's creating new skills that you have to do, prompt marketing, APIs, and a lot of different things. So how do you see this? Because I'm sure you have a lot of intelligence and you're seeing it probably day to day, the challenge this comes. But at the same time, ChatGPT is creating I'm sorry, it's a big question, but I want to touch this part, is creating another monster challenge, is that it's stealing IP from everyone and creating fake IP. because in the end of the day, it's stealing IP from a lot of agencies, it's stealing IP from a lot of creators, and combining everything in a crazy, like putting in the funnel and see what comes out of it. It comes fantastic things, to be honest, but at the same time, it creates a huge problem for revenue streams for creators and so forth, because in the end of the day, and we're talking about ChatGPT had already $12 billion of funding, or more as we speak, and it's creating another very creative, crazy situation, because are you changing everything to ChatGPT, or are you continuing with Google? You continue. So there's a lot of questions that is opening in the end of the day. So how do you cope with this, and what is like at least some of bullet points that you would bring to from your experience and that what you're living right now?
Yeah, it's fascinating topic, isn't it? And as a natural entrepreneur or innovator, you can't help but spot the opportunities rather than the maybe the threats, but you have to be aware of both. I think to begin with, look, if you look at one area of efficiency, it's almost without doubt a very useful tool. Right? The ability to strip out some of the non-value adding stuff and achieve better outcomes, or at least the same outcome with less effort, has to be good for clients, for agencies, and for everybody involved. Therefore, we're already seeing some of our customers looking at how they can apply AI to reducing the cost to service some of their existing processes, or how are they maybe delivering better customer service to their end customers without the corresponding increase in operating expense. So there's definitely opportunities in there. The effectiveness side of things, coming up with a better solution, coming up with a more effective campaign, for example, creating better art or photography, or a better movie, or a better game, maybe than a human could. I think the jury is still out on that one, but there's definitely opportunities to improve the creative process, like every tool, but still using it as a way of kind of amplifying or improving the human capability. I think the bit that is definitely unproven is that area of empathy, right? And maybe even areas like entertainment, where there's that very distinctive kind of human characteristic, humor or surprise, or or empathy, as I say, where there's still a very clear human role here. If a creative agency wants to strip away all of the admin, the efficiency, and the process, and give them a chance to focus on what they're brilliant at, which is entertainment, creativity, then fine. I think this is where we're currently at in terms of the way we're looking at AI, and certainly from a Studiospace standpoint, we're looking to bring in tools that can help us with the process of discovery, matching, playing Cupid between the agencies and the clients and saying who's the perfect match for who. Well, we have a project going on with University College London right now, trying to understand the variables and understand the code in creating that perfect match. So I think this is going to be fascinating. And so we see it very much as an opportunity rather than as a threat. But I think it's about applying those to the right areas, and maybe not going too quickly into more high risk or high impact areas. For me, that would be the key to this. But we're already experimenting in this area, see it very positive in the role that we're playing, and a lot of our agencies as well in the roles that they're playing with their clients are already experimenting, doing proofs of concept, and launching better bots or better tools to help their customers already. That's a reality.
So very positive view into AI and the challenge that it brings, and I like that. We need that more positive. So let's go a bit more on this part. So from these tools that you mentioned, so at the moment, of course, the one of the challenges I face even with my own team is that, of course, you have people very experienced like us, but then how you pass this experience and how you pass the disruption in a very seamless way, because the challenge is how you create this continuous communication, a critical thinking and evaluation. But the challenge is that you have to continue all the time, because, like, for instance, last week we didn't have threads, now we have threads. So we're going to have another major social network with 100 million people already there. That is another challenge as well, because it can become really big. You don't know, but you have ChatGPT, you have this. So how do you see this kind of, especially the use of tools, or the use of, or the adaptation to this use of tools? Because the tools, you always add it, but the adaptation and the skill set that changes much faster. Because in order, let's say, if you go back 10 years or even 15 years to create an SEO expert, you would need probably 1 year. And now you need to have an SEO expert that knows how to work with prompts, or knows how to index for an API, and all these different nuances between software, non-software, no code, and a lot of different areas. And if you want to touch about some of these tools as well for people listening to us.
Sure. Yeah, look, a huge challenge, and I'm kind of relieved that it's not down to me or to you. That actually,
yeah, well, it is for you as well.
Well, maybe, but
us.
it's the next generation of innovators who are taking on that challenge, and that maybe is where the solution lies. I think where I believe you hit the nail on the head there in setting up the question is the fragmentation of capabilities, the interoperability, and the openness within, in the way that technology is developed nowadays. It used to be that you had to make a big decision about the platform of choice, or the language of choice, or the vendor of choice even, and your company would go down one avenue, and you would commit to a certain technology vendor architecture kind of choice. And I think now the unpredictability and the rate of change is such that you need to keep your options open as a strategist and as a technologist, and then deploy those solutions in a very rapid way, in a way that you can then understand its impact on your customers and determine very quickly whether or not you've made a good choice, and whether or not thread is going to be massive, or whether you don't need to worry at all, because those user numbers are declining at the same rate that they increased to begin with. So I think what's becoming more important is your ability to listen to the signals, to collect data very quickly, interpret it, make decisions very quickly, and also maybe to go into business decisions without the same commitments and the time commitments and the legal commitments that we maybe would have done in the past, but to have a much more dynamic, on-demand mindset about these sorts of things. So that would certainly be my kind of steer or suggestion in terms of customers and clients. And I think the answer to this, fortunately, does live with this next generation of innovators who've been brought up with much better understanding of digital technology maybe than the previous generation, and the openness within which they can embrace multiple platforms and multiple solutions to help deliver their business objectives. It's not a linear, it's not a binary thing anymore where you make a choice down one technology route and stick with that for the next 5 or 10 years. Just not realistic anymore. So yeah, I'm enthusiastic about that future, but I do think it requires quite a different mindset of an innovator to be able to experiment quickly, listen to the signals, understand the feedback that you're getting from your customers, and then very quickly changing direction if you need to.
Yeah, I think I love that you're very positive and very direct, because this is actually, for me, is a challenge that is going to be just continue growing, is how you adapt to the lack of adoption, or technological lack of adoption, and things like that. But well, one last question, and just to let you go. So tell us how. So we talk about how it works, and how Studiospace can make a difference. So let's say if we look at a summary of why Studiospace, and why it makes so much sense, but as well, if you would pitch for a brand and pitch for an agency, how would be the difference? Because I think that's the key element in a very simple way, and they know that we are very synthetic.
Sure. I think, customers like to work with Studiospace for 3 big reasons. One is they can discover new agencies and new specialists that they didn't even know existed, and they can find them and work with them. So the quality there is very high, and they can access those. The second thing is it's very simple and very easy to onboard those agencies compared with what you'd expect. Rather than having to go through a big procurement exercise, they've already onboarded Studiospace with a master services agreement, and therefore every agency that is on our platform is available for their teams to work with. So it's a very quick, very seamless kind of experience. And the third benefit is economic. You know, it's a very efficient approach, and also they get great value from these specialist independent agencies rather than paying a large general sort of holding company or network for doing all of their work. So we're finding, you know, some on-demand, very, very efficient solutions to solve some of the marketing and digital challenges. So overall, that's why customers like Studiospace. It's a new way of finding the best talent to work with your digital and marketing teams. And from an agency perspective, agencies come to Studiospace because we can bring them into some of the best briefs, some of the best marketing and digital challenges that their teams want to work with. So some of the biggest brands in the world, like Aviva and Jaguar Land Rover, we're able to bring some new specialist agencies in very quickly. The wonderful thing is that they're onboarded without all of the admin and all of the hassle and all of the contracting pain that you normally go through. And that comes down to payments as well. You don't end up waiting months to get paid. Studiospace ensures that there's a very prompt payment schedule, and we keep the cash flow flowing for our agencies as well. So we like to think of Studiospace as definitely a kind of a new way of working. It's a new model for the industry. We love the marketing services and the digital services industry, but we want to bring a new way of working and a more efficient, faster, more sort of satisfying way of working for both customers and agencies to work together.
Fantastic. I appreciate. I have still a lot of more questions, but we'll do that probably for another round. This congratulations for people listening to us. Please go to Studiospace. There's a lot of studiospace.com, a lot of very good agencies. That of course is a B2B platform for agencies, but there's a lot of learning curve, and of course agencies are welcome. I don't know if you want to just say how they can come on board for people listening to us, and I will let you go after.
Sure, yeah, please come to studiospace.com, take a good look. If agency founders are also interested in learning more about the platform, they can contact us via the website or via intercom, and we'll be back in touch. We can arrange a conversation to see if your agency has a good fit with the platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. A pleasure to have you here.
Great. Speak soon. Thanks, Dinis.
Thank you.